Hello everybody and welcome to another video, and today we're looking at the new single released by Zornheim. As of the recording of this video, the premiere for the new song has just finished. I specifically didn't watch the premiere because I wanted to do a reaction video to it. I could have done a live stream like I did with the last track, but I decided not to. So anyway, yeah, like I said, the premiere has just finished. I'm very much looking forward to this. I didn't find out they were releasing this track until fairly late yesterday, which is one of the main reasons why didn't do a live stream for it, because I didn't have enough time to set up and get prepared for it. I do have lyrics for the new track here, a new track called Slumber Comes in Time. I do have lyrics. They come from directly underneath the video on YouTube, so we're going to jump straight into this track and see what we've got. So, Slumber Comes in Time by Zornheim. Let's have a look. And there you go. Slumber Comes in Time by Zornheim. And again, another great track by the band. There's a lot more sort of choir and chorus in this one, which was very, very interesting. And some very interesting dynamic between the harsh vocals and the sort of cleaner vocals. Now, the way this is done, it seems to be either a conversation between the two doctors or the two doctors talking about their findings and how they are dealing with the patients within the Zornheim mental asylum. As we discussed in the previous track, this album is all about sleep experiments being conducted in the bowels of the mental institution. And I can't remember what it's called. Keep the Devil Away, I believe it was called. And the devil was referring to the doctor that was conducting these experiments. So it starts out with Dr. Bettelheim saying, "No sounds, just whispers. That's the only thing I hear. I cannot get a word from them. Can you?" To which Dr. Gutzman replies, "A look with bloodshot eyes. I see I come with open arms. Now show your tortured lives, tales of where you now reside. All souls deserve their rest. Your sweet slumber comes in time, but your sleepless state holds the knowledge that we seek." So here it's sort of painting Dr. Bettelman as the more sort of aggressive type of doctor. You know, he's the one who's like seems to be like emotionless and is just like really interested in what's going on. He doesn't care about the patients. Whereas Dr. Gutzman seems to maybe slightly empathize with the patient, or maybe it's just a facade saying, you know, like, you know, you'll get sleep eventually, but we really need to find out what's going on with you. Whereas he's actually going, you know, we're going to keep you awake until we get what we want. You know, those last lines, you know, your sweet slumber comes in time, but your sleepless state holds the knowledge that we seek. So he's like, you know, you'll get to sleep eventually, but we really need to know you know, your state of mind and how it's affecting you. Whereas the other guy's going, I can't get any results. What is going on? I need these people to talk to me. So it goes back to Dr. Bettelheim, just muttering words. None of this makes sense to me. The test is at stake. It cannot be. All my research jeopardized by guinea pigs. No, it cannot be. All my research wasted by these worthless guinea pigs. So again, this is painting Dr. Bettelheim as the more sort of sadistic and evil of the two doctors, and this guy being more or less the devil that was referred to in Keep the Devil Away. You know, he doesn't care that the patients are suffering or struggling. All he cares about is the results. And he's like, you know, I've just lost all of my research because of these useless people. You know, they've not been of any help whatsoever. They've totally destroyed all of my research. You know, what am I going to do now? And Dr. Gutzman comes back in with that. A look with bloodshot eyes. See I come with open arms. Now show your tortured lives, tales of where you now reside. All souls deserves their rest. Your sweet slumber comes in time, but your sleepless state holds the knowledge that we seek. So again, you know, that chorus comes in, and again, it sort of paints Dr. Gutzman as the nicer of the two. You know, maybe they're playing a sort of good cop, bad cop sort of scenario going on here. You know, maybe he is more sadistic than he's coming across, but he wants to sort of encourage the patients to do what he wants them to, whereas Bettelheim is like, you know, more straightforward. He's like, just get it done. And Gutzman carries on, is agony why you silently stare and hold your tongue? So did your spirit die so your words remained your own? Please answer and give me a sign of life. So now he's trying to ask them, you know, is the reason why you're staying quiet and just staring off into the distance because of something, because of the sleep experiments? You know, has it killed your spirit? Has it killed your soul? Are you, you know, basically a vegetable now because of these experiments? Please, you know, tell me what's happening so I can help, you know, so I can find out. And then came something that we've not actually seen in any Zornheim track before that I can remember. They actually sang in another language, and I'm pretty sure it's Swedish. And I did translate it, but I didn't actually check to see what language it was when I translated it. But I put this through Google Translate, so I'm not 100% sure how accurate the translation is. But I'm not even going to try and say the original. Um, but the translation I got was, "Oh, you cold bosom down in Zornheim's deep embrace, dreams never reach where no rest is ever obtained. There is no light, only darkness reigns here, in suffocating noise, stuck in shackles of misery. Oh, you cold bosom, deep in Zornheim's hotbed, a womb so sick, the soul forgotten and eaten." So I'm guessing that's the patient speaking there, saying down in Zornheim's deep embrace, where dreams never reach and no rest is ever obtained. He's sort of lamenting and sort of cursing the mental institute as it is, Zornheim, the mental institution. Dreams never reach me, rest is never obtained, there's no light, there's only darkness here. So, he's talking about what a horrible, oppressive place it is. He can't sleep, he can't dream, he's almost robbed of all of his senses in this sort of situation. And, you know, he's just going crazy, and a womb so sick, the soul forgotten and eaten. So you can feel himself sort of falling apart. He's being torn apart. His soul is failing, and he's sort of losing the will to live, essentially, by the sounds of things. So it's quite quite brutal, really. And I mentioned when I did Keep the Devil Away that it sounds very similar to the sleep experiments that the Nazis did many years ago. They kept people awake for days, weeks, months on end, just to see what effect it would have on the human body. Because I believe they were trying to create soldiers that didn't need to sleep. They wanted to find a way to keep their soldiers awake at all times, so they didn't need to rest. This almost seems as a similar sort of situation. They want to keep these people awake to find out what effects it has on their mind and on their body. So this is something I really do love about this band, is the way they create these stories. And as you saw in that video, all that artwork, again, that's very likely coming from the graphic novel that'll accompany this album, like they did with the first album as well. And I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on that, because I really enjoyed the first graphic novel. I really enjoyed the first album. I'm really looking forward to this one as well. And another great piece of music as well. And I do like the fact that they had a lot more sort of chorus and sort of choir-like sounds to it. It had very interesting dynamic in the music. It was quite different to previous tracks in some respects, with all that chorus and choir in the background. But it sounded great. Another great track. I'm really looking forward to when that album comes out. Don't know what else I can actually say about that, so I'm going to leave that as it is. Now, if anybody would like to suggest a track for me to react to, then please do so. By all means, you can drop a comment in the comment section below, or message me on my Facebook or my Instagram, or you could even message me through my Patreon, where you could also help to support this channel, which would, of course, be a massive help to me, considering every piece of content I upload to this channel gets immediately demonetized, which is a bit frustrating, but, it is what it is. There's an option in Patreon where you can get your suggestion jumped to the front of the queue if you should so desire it. There is, of course, a restriction on how frequently you can do that, and that's just to be fair to people who suggest tracks through more regularly, such as YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram comments. And if you do suggest a track through those more regular means, do know it could take me a while to get around to your suggestion, since I do get suggested so many new tracks every single day. And of course, I just recently took about 4 weeks off from doing videos because I was struggling with my mental health, so I've got a bit of a backlog going as well. But I do write down every suggestion I get, so I should get round to it eventually. It just might take me a while, unfortunately. Also, MetalHead Reacts is a proud supporter of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, a British-based charity whose goal is to put an end to hate crimes, and one of the major facets of that is hate crimes against people of the alternative community. This is something that's been going on for decades. It's something that happens each and every single day all over the world, but gets very, very widely ignored. Every single day, people from the alternative community are getting violently and brutally assaulted just because of their taste in music. And for the most part, nothing ever gets said about this. You know, every day we hear about all these other hate crimes like sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, religious hatred, ableism, etc. We hear these on a daily basis. From the most violent and heinous of these crimes, where somebody is brutally murdered because of the colour of their skin, because of their religious belief, because of their sexual identity, down to, excuse me, the most pitiful and pathetic of these crimes, where some entitled white woman is calling the police because a family of colour are having a picnic in a public space. You know, we hear these on a daily basis. But when it comes to somebody from the alternative community getting violently attacked, we hear nothing. The last time there was widespread talk about this was 14 years ago, when Sophie Lancaster and her boyfriend Rob Maltby were brutally and violently attacked by a group of 5 or 6 people who beat them, kicked them, punched them, knocked them to the ground, and stamped on their heads so violently that they both ended up in comas. Now, thankfully, Rob Maltby, he thankfully survived this attack. He was in a coma for around about a week and a half, possibly a little bit longer, I can't remember exactly, but he did thankfully survive. Sophie Lancaster, on the other hand, she was in a coma for 13 days before she succumbed to her injuries, and she died. This young woman was 20 years old and was beaten to death just because of her taste in music and clothing. Now, when this happened, this was all over the news, as rightfully it should have been. But over time, you know, other news stories came in and it faded into the background as you'd expect it to. But in the 14 years since that happened, we've not heard anything similar, despite the fact there have been several hundred, if not several thousand, similar incidents in that time. The only difference is that no one has died. And that is the disgusting element. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to lose their life before this sort of thing gets talked about. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to die before something gets done. I mean, every day we hear about these entitled white people calling the police because they feel that someone shouldn't be walking down their street. We hear these every day. But the moment someone from the alternative community is violently and brutally assaulted and beaten to within an inch of their life, not a word is said. A couple of years ago, a young woman in Scotland was running a charity gig, and at one point she had to go back to her home for whatever reason. Her home was a 5-minute walk away from the venue. In the time between leaving the venue and getting to her home, she was assaulted twice, again by a group of people. About 5 people, 6 people, assaulted her twice in the time between leaving the venue and getting to her home, which was a 5-minute walk away. Again, beaten, kicked, punched, knocked to the ground, and violently and brutally beaten. This wasn't in the news, this wasn't in the newspaper, this wasn't all over social media, nothing was said. Now, if this had been racially motivated, if it had been homophobically motivated, if this had been religiously motivated, this would have been all over the news. But no. This was someone from the alternative community. Again, it was a young woman. She was about 20, 21 years old. The young woman, violently and brutally assaulted twice on, within a matter of minutes of each other. Nothing. Not a word. It's unacceptable. Something needs to be done, and this is what the Sophie Lancaster Foundation is all about. They want to bring more attention to the fact that this is a very real and very big problem. Because they don't want to see another family go through what they went through when they had to watch their daughter slowly die over the course of 2 weeks. And you can bet your bottom dollar that that young woman in Glasgow, Scotland, if her assaults had resulted in her death, then it would have been all over the news. People would have been crying and weeping, saying how unfair it was, how bad it is, how cruel it is that this happened. Then it would have been all over the news. Again, we shouldn't have to wait for that. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to die before something gets done. So if you'd like to find out more about the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, there's a link to the website in the description below. You can go over there, find out what they're working on at the moment, find out what their overall goal is, because they can explain that a hell of a lot better than I can. And if you can help them out in any small way, obviously don't feel obligated to do so, but if you can help them out in any small way, whether it be a small donation through their website or even something as simple as one of these wristbands, maybe even that one, they've got a whole bunch of other cool stuff over there as well. The smallest amount can make the biggest difference, and the sooner we bring more attention to this, the sooner we get more people talking about this, the sooner we can help to stamp out prejudice, hatred and intolerance everywhere. But I'm going to leave that as it is for the time being. Thank you all very, very much for watching. I'll see you again soon.